Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars, welcome to another of my double reviews. Today's double review I focus on Jack Reacher and its sequel, Jack Reacher Never Go Back. Now I made quite a bold statement on the channel a couple of weeks ago after watching and reviewing the Reacher series on Amazon Prime. I enjoyed that show so much, I said in that review that I didn't think I would be able to go back and watch the Tom Cruise films. And I thought that was, a little bit unfair. I do remember watching both the Reacher films previously with Tom Cruise and quite enjoying them, but at that time I didn't know an awful lot about the character of Jack Reacher. So I thought I would give it a fair shot and go back and rewatch both of them and give you my thoughts on each and give you a brief review of each of those. And this is the result of that. So I do hope you enjoy both my takes on Jack Reacher and Jack Reacher Never Go Back.
Jack Reacher is a ghost, served in the military police. A brilliant investigator. Troublemaker, too. Then, 2 years ago, he disappears. You don't find this guy unless he wants to be found.
Excuse me, sir. There's a Jack Reacher here to see you.
Now, Jack Reacher was released in 2012. It was something of a box office success. It was directed by Christopher McQuarrie and it stars, of course, Tom Cruise, Rosamund Pike, Richard Jenkins and Jai Courtney. And I think it's based on the Jack Reacher book One Shot, which I haven't read. And it focuses on a sniper that takes out a few targets. It's an old acquaintance of Tom Cruise when he was in the military, of Jack Reacher when he was in the military, should I say. And he made a promise to this sniper that if he rose up again and took some innocent victims, he'd turn up and deal with him. So Jack Reacher turns up on the scene. He's hired by the sniper's lawyer, and he decides to uncover the evidence to see if this sniper is guilty or innocent. And whilst doing this, he uncovers quite a conspiracy and a plot. Right. Now, like I say, I have seen Jack Reacher previously. I've seen it a couple of times actually, and this is I think it's the third time I've watched it now to prep for this review. And again, I quite enjoyed it. It's a well-made film that deserved its box office success. As you expect, it's really high production values with Tom Cruise in the lead, and regardless of what you think of Tom Cruise's stature, he's able to pull off these action roles effortlessly, as he has proven many, many times over the years, especially with the Mission Impossible franchise. Now, if you go into this film not seen it before, and you know now and are acutely aware who Jack Reacher is and what he should look like, this may be a tough pill to swallow, this film, because he just does not, he doesn't look like Jack Reacher. He may act like Jack Reacher, and he does pull off the tough guy image in this film quite well, Tom Cruise. I think if you almost go into this film, there's two things. If you go into this film and you can distance yourself from Tom Cruise playing the Jack Reacher character and you can accept it for what it is in the sense of him playing this role, you'll enjoy it if you like. If you go into this film not knowing anything about the Jack Reacher books or the Amazon TV show, you'll probably enjoy it a little bit more, because it is a well-produced, well-put-together action piece that actually does keep you gripped for the most part. Yes, it makes a couple of missteps here and there. The Jai Courtney plays, in my opinion, he just does not play a good villain on screen. He's done it over and over again, and he's dull, and he doesn't add anything to this film. And that is the biggest letdown for me for this film, is the villains. They're not fleshed out well enough. But as a good action film, this is actually well worth checking out, and I do think it is worthy of an 8 out of 10 score. So check it out if you've never seen it, and that takes us nicely to...
How's it going? I don't like being followed.
You think you're invulnerable?
That's right. Maybe I rip your arm off and beat you to death with it.
I'm sorry about this.
Reacher? I'm here to kill you.
Now, Jack Reacher Never Go Back was released in 2016 and was a mild box office success, certainly not as successful as the first one. And again, I think it's based off the book of the same title, again, which I haven't read. This time, the plot revolves around Jack Reacher, who goes to the aid of Major Turner, who essentially is someone he's been working with behind the scenes at the military to kind of, tie up some loose ends and sort some cases out. And they kind of agree to get together. So when he turns up in Washington, he finds out that she's been arrested for espionage. He knows that is crap, really. So he decides to investigate and realise that there is a conspiracy within the military to sell arms, all this kind of stuff. And he needs to basically save Major Turner in order to keep her alive and uncover this military conspiracy. Right, so the sequel was directed by Edward Zwick this time, and obviously we've got Tom Cruise returning, Kobe Smulders, Aldous Hodge, and Robert Nepper. Now, Never Go Back, for me, more so than the first film, it feels like they couldn't do the book justice, and that's weird to say because I haven't read the book, but this plot felt too convoluted and complex to fit into like a 2-hour type movie. There were too many moving parts in it, too much of like these conspiracies going on. It was a little bit like the TV show, the recent one, that was spread out over 8 episodes and it was just right. And there was this kind of interwoven conspiracy and all this kind of stuff going on that was explained at a nice pace over 8 episodes. And it was too much, I think, for this 2-hour movie to fit it all in. I do think there are aspects of this film that do work. I thought Tom Cruise obviously was as good as he was in the first one, regardless of what you might think of him being cast as Jack Reacher. Kobe Smulders was good as this Major Turner, and they end up teaming up throughout this film. And there's also a separate plot line, and again, I don't know if it was in the book, I'm sure it was, where he has to protect a young teenager called Samantha who is suspected may well be his daughter. So he's got that added pressure of keeping her safe and protected at the same time. I think the one thing this film gets right more so than the first one is the villain. Well, not so much the top villain, Robert Nepper. You don't really see much of him. But there's like this guy called the Hunter, who's like this, guy that's killing all these people. He seems much more of a threat than the Jai Courtney character in the first one. And you really do have this build-up and anticipation of this face-off between Jack Reacher and this Hunter guy. And it doesn't really disappoint as well. It was a kind of a good face-off with them by the end. But it's a decent sequel, this, if obviously not as good as the first one. So therefore, I'm going to give this one a 7 out of 10, just because it's not just as up to par. But as sequels go, it's a pretty decent effort. So that's my takes on Jack Reacher and Jack Reacher Never Go Back. I thought it was fair of me to actually revisit both these films and give you a bit of a brief review on each of them if you've never seen them before, especially if you've seen the new Amazon TV show and you're interested in these Jack Reacher movies that were made a few years ago. Check them out, if only to see what you think of them, really. So I hope you enjoyed this double review, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I'll be back with more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.